Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we begin with Part 1 from the Origin of Freemasonry, the 1717 theory exploded by Chalmers I. Paton. The Origin of Freemasonry, the 1717 theory exploded by Chalmers I. Paton, author of Freemasonry in Relation to Civil Authority and the Family Circle. Preface. Many worthy brethren have been offended on account of the discredit done to the Masonic order by the assertion, which is now often and confidently made, that the whole system of Freemasonry is of very recent origin. Some saying that it was invented by Elias Ashmole and a few of his learned and ingenious friends in the 17th century. Others, more numerous, that it derives existence from the year 1717 and was devised, promulgated and palmed upon the world by Dr Desaguliers, Dr Anderson and others, who then founded the Grand Lodge of England. Some of these brethren have asked me, as a brother believed to take a deep interest in every question of this kind and supposed to have opportunity for investigation, to bestow a little attention upon this subject, to inquire what grounds there are for the Ashmole theory and what for the 1717 theory, or if they are not both utterly groundless. I have gladly endeavored to comply with their request and hope the result may be satisfactory to them. Whatever they or others may think of my pamphlet, I feel convinced that the proof which it sets forth is sufficient and the argument conclusive, and this is all or almost all that I care for in the matter. I have a strong desire to see the honor of our order maintained and to contribute my own part in every way possible to the maintaining of it. And I believe nothing can be more contrary to it than the supposition that Freemasonry is of recent origin. For if it were so, it would be liable to be regarded not merely as an invention of men of talent, which might be good, but of necessity as an imposture, which in no case can be imagined to be good. When we consider how Freemasonry was presented to public notice in England, after the foundation of the Grand Lodge in 1717, we must feel ourselves constrained either to acknowledge that Dr Desaguliers, Dr Anderson and their coadjutors were honest men doing a work which they believed to be good, or to set them down as a set of the most consummate rascals that ever imposed upon mankind, and yet with no motive for their imposture. No motive has ever been assigned or suggested. The case is one that needs to be plainly stated, and which the supporters of the 1717 theory must meet in the plainest statement of it. To maintain the honor or excellence of Freemasonry, and at the same time to maintain its base origin, is ridiculous. Looking to the characters of Dr Desaguliers and Dr Anderson, it seems impossible to doubt their thorough honesty and integrity. This of itself is a powerful argument. But another equally powerful is to be found in the character of the system which they did so much to promote in England and in the world, a system of high morality. But I must not further anticipate in the preface the argument of the pamphlet itself, which I now respectfully commend to the attention of the members of the Masonic Brotherhood. The Origin of Freemasonry, the 1717 theory exploded. It has of late been asserted with no small display of confidence, but without any display of evidence, that the present system of Freemasonry, or what is called speculative Masonry, had its origin in the year 1717, when the Grand Lodge of England was formed. The purpose of the present pamphlet is to submit this theory to examination. The first thing which naturally occurs to the mind in considering this theory is the perfectly arbitrary character of the assumption which is made. Why should it be assumed that speculative Masonry originated in 1717? Why should not another date be fixed upon as readily as that which is assumed? In fact, we know that some of those who have recently opposed the notion of the great antiquity of Freemasonry have assigned another date for its origin. They represent it as having been devised and framed into a system by the celebrated Elias Ashmole and others about the middle of the 17th century, or about 50 years before 1717. All this it is proposed to consider in the following pages, that the baselessness of the one theory may be exhibited as well as that of the other. In the meantime, reference is merely made to what may be called the 17th century theory, as showing the difference of opinion or of conjecture which exists among those who assign to speculative Masonry an entirely modern origin. If the one theory, however, were merely to be balanced against the other, those who go back to the 17th century would be found to have the advantage. for evidence of the existence of speculative Freemasonry can easily be adduced from the writings of Elias Ashmole himself. We shall see this as we proceed. Meanwhile, it is only necessary to advert to the fact, as showing how ungrounded the 1717 theory is. Evidence will be hereafter adduced to show that speculative Masonry existed not only before 1717, but before the time of Ashmole. The advocates of the 1717 theory found their chief argument on the formation of the Grand Lodge of England in that year. They tell us of Dr Desaguliers, Dr Anderson and others as the framers or inventors of the new system. There is no doubt that the present Grand Lodge of England was founded in 1717. There is also no doubt that Dr Desaguliers and Dr Anderson took part in founding it, nor that to them we are greatly indebted for the high position which Freemasonry then assumed and which it has since maintained in this country. That they also improved the system is not to be denied. It is a system which has undergone improvement since its beginning and is capable of indefinite improvement. But that Dr Desaguliers and Dr Anderson invented it, that they palmed it upon the world as an ancient institution whilst they knew it to be a mere novelty of their own framing, is a supposition utterly inconsistent with the characters of the men, even if there were nothing in the facts of history to refute it. Dr Desaguliers, a Frenchman, was carried from his native country in childhood by his parents, Huguenot refugees, and being educated in England, spent his life there, became thoroughly naturalized, writing his works in English, and not in the language of his native country. He was eminent in natural philosophy and natural history, in both departments of science, one of the first men of his day, a voluminous author whose works are even now consulted by those who study the branches of science to which he devoted himself. Dr Anderson, a Scotsman, was a Presbyterian minister in London of high repute amongst his brethren, and of note also for his literary attainments. Desaguliers was excelled as a natural philosopher, perhaps by none of his contemporaries, except Sir Isaac Newton and Halley. Anderson was, like him, a man of high character and in great esteem. These men, it may safely be said, were not likely to frame a system of imposture and to employ their time in deceiving others by so doing, even if they had a motive of advantage. Whereas no such motive is suggested by those who gratuitously attribute to them this conduct, and they are represented as doing what they are said to have done in the foundation of speculative Freemasonry without any reason or motive whatever. There can be nothing more improbable than this theory. The most positive evidence must be demanded in its support, and of such evidence nothing whatever has been adduced. Let it be observed that this 1717 theory ascribes to men of the highest character the invention of a system of mere imposture. For whatever that system may be deemed in itself, and we may well refer to its nature as showing how unlikely it is to have had such an origin, yet if it was framed and palmed upon the world by Desaguliers and others in 1717, it was nothing else than a system of imposture. It was brought forward with pretensions which its framers knew to be false, pretensions of high antiquity, whereas according to the 1717 theory, it had been newly invented in their studies. Is this likely? Or is it reasonable to ascribe such conduct to honorable men without even assigning a probable motive for it? It is rather a wanton traducing of characters which have always been held in high regard. Surely the eminent men of former generations ought to be safe now from such attacks upon their reputation. It is assumed in the 1717 theory that the Masons in England, Scotland, and other countries were, until that date, a mere guild of operatives, like other guilds which existed. It is forgotten that the very art of Masonry required in its higher departments the possession of attainments by no means requisite in any of the other ordinary crafts. The mere builder or hewer of stone might be nothing more than an operative mason. But those who planned a building and superintended its erection must always have been men of highly superior culture and intelligence. It is to them that we ascribe the origin of Freemasonry, and it seems certainly not improbable, but in the highest degree probable, that the craft has existed from very ancient times, distinct from all other crafts, and peculiar in its organization. Those who date its origin from the building of Solomon's temple may have no very positive evidence to sustain their theory, but it is at least in this respect better than the 1717 theory, that it has in it more natural probability and cannot so easily be refuted. we can trace a strong resemblance to the modern system of Freemasonry in the architectural collegia of the ancient Romans. We find a similar system prevailing in the Middle Ages in the Steinmetzen of Germany. Had these, it may be asked, no connection with one another? It appears more than probable that they had, and that from them we may trace the origin of the Freemasonry now existing. It may be that there were great and important differences, yet the most essential parts of the system might be the same, and indeed it appears that they were the same. In maintaining the antiquity of Freemasonry, it is by no means requisite to prove that the system of former ages was precisely the same as the present. If we find in it the same essential characters, it is enough. The Freemasonry of most modern times has undergone change. Improvements have been introduced from one time to another and are being introduced at the present day. This susceptibility of improvement is one of the excellences of Freemasonry. It may be admitted without hesitation that the system previously existing was much improved by Desaguliers, Anderson and others about 1717. It may be admitted also that half a century before it was much improved by Elias Ashmole and his coadjutors, but this leaves us still to suppose that they found a system in existence which they regarded as valuable and which therefore they sought to improve. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment, and if you can please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.